I follow a bunch of really talented chart analysts, and it's always fascinating to see the wide range of predictions they have for where XRP might peak this market cycle. On the more cautious side, some think it could hit around $8 to $10, maybe up to $11. The higher end, a few are predicting it could go a little over $30, possibly into the upper $30. Of course, there are also those calling for $100 XRP this cycle, but honestly, I can't take that seriously, though I'd be more than happy to be proven wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe we end up sitting at $100, 0 cents, and hey, that's fine. But honestly, I think the chances of that happening are pretty much zero. I've explained why in tons of videos, so I won't repeat myself here. That said, there's a really broad range of price expectations, and honestly, I wouldn't be shocked by anything at this point. If you look at predictions from lots of reputable analysts, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The lower end might be too cautious and the upper end might be a bit too optimistic. That's usually how these things go. So what does that mean? Maybe XRP reaches $13, $14, or $15. And honestly, none of those numbers sound crazy to me. If you're serious about XRP or any crypto trading, here's your power move. Sign up to Bybit using my exclusive link below. Not only do you get a welcome bonus, but you'll also help support the channel so we can keep bringing you top tier XRP insights before anyone else. It takes 30 seconds, no KYC for spot trading, and you can deposit XRP directly. It's smooth, fast, and secure. Check that link below and get started now. Don't miss out on those trading bonuses while they last. Honestly, I don't even think $30 is that crazy. It's just that I don't see it as very likely. Hey, I'm happy to be proven wrong, and who knows, I might be. Just being real here, I'm pretty doubtful. That said, even someone like me who tends to be more cautious can admit that if a huge amount of money starts flowing into crypto, a good chunk of it could definitely end up cycling through XRP. All right, fair enough. Let me share some thoughts from a chart analyst featured in this video. Basically, they're looking at historical patterns, what happened in the last cycle and the one before that, and using it to predict where XRP's price might go this time around. The prediction? A price range between $9.50 and $37.50. Yeah, I know that's a pretty wide range. If you're new to crypto, you might be thinking, how can we rely on anything with numbers that broad? But honestly, in the world of crypto, that's pretty normal. Whether it's Bitcoin, ETH, or XRP, big ranges like this aren't unusual at all. Of course, I wish we could pinpoint exactly where XRP is heading, but the reality is we just don't have that level of certainty. Anywhere in that range could truly be life-changing for so many people listening, and I'm confident about that. So let's dive into it a bit more. That said, I want to be upfront. I don't have a financial background, and this isn't financial advice. Please don't make any decisions about buying or selling based solely on what I say or write. Always do your own research. Here's a look at the XRP/USD chart shared by chart analyst Greg Crypto. If you're not familiar with him, he's the guy who accurately predicted XRP's breakout in the last market cycle. Pretty impressive. Now, just to be clear, he's not making any guarantees about specific prices here, though he has mentioned before that he expects XRP could potentially hit double-digit territory. In this post, he's just reflecting on past price movements and what a similar pattern might look like now. Well, here's what he shared. The rationale, or rational, as he put it, could he use an extra E there, Greg, behind the $9.50 to $37.50 range is based on XRP's historical cycles. Typically, XRP rises above the EMA, exponential moving average, retests it, and then makes its final explosive move to the cycle's peak. If you check out the chart, the EMA is that yellow line tracking back over a decade. According to Greg, the last big move from the retest to the top usually creates what's known as the blow-off peak. So here's how he breaks it down. Cycle 1, Cycle 2, and Cycle 3. Cycle 1 refers to the 2017-2018 bull run when XRP hit its all-time high of $3.35 on January 4th, 2018. Then there's Cycle 2, which happened during the SEC drama. Because of that, XRP was held back and only peaked at $2. It was clearly being suppressed. Now we're in Cycle 3, which is the current phase. Here's what he pointed out. In Cycle 1, XRP saw an insane 2,000% gain. Crazy, right? Cycle 2 wasn't as wild, but still impressive with a 455% increase from the retest point. And just to clarify, those percentages aren't based on the initial pump. For example, in early 2017, XRP skyrocketed from about half a penny to around 42 cents before pulling back and consolidating for about 6 months. He's not referring to that first big jump in the same way the initial surge in Cycle 2, as he calls it, happened back in November. It went from around 20 cents to just over 80 cents before dipping again. That was the first big exciting pump. And let's be honest, 80 cents felt huge at the time because it's been so long since we've seen that level. Now, moving on to cycle 3, he mentions we've already had that first pump, which is why he's not focusing on it here. We've already seen the first pump. If you look back at the last 2 cycles, there was always a big pump followed by about 6 months of consolidation and then a second major pump. So just to be clear, we're not talking about the first pump. It's already happened. We've been consolidating for nearly half a year now, which lines up with the usual pattern. That huge 2,000% jump, that's tied to the second pump. Back in the 2017 cycle, this happened around mid-December, peaked in early January. It delivered those massive 2,000% gains from that price level. Then, fast forward to April 2021, XRP had its second pump, even with all the regulatory challenges it faced. It went way up, though I can't quite recall the exact starting point. So XRP took a big hit, dropping to around $0.16 or $0.17 after the bad news from the SEC, but then it bounced back in a big way, hitting $2 at cycle peak. That's a 455% gain. What he's talking about now is applying those kinds of percentage gains to this cycle. Basically, he's saying, what if we see similar growth this time around? Let's break it down. He suggests that after the initial surge and retest in April 2025, the EMA exponential moving average could climb along with XRP's price, paving the way for another major move. Based on how past blow-off phases have played out, we might see a massive 2,000% increase, which would push XRP to around $37.50. But wait, he's also looking at a more conservative scenario. If we get another 455% rise, that would still put XRP at about $9.50. He says, choose your targets wisely, plan your exits, and don't get caught up in the hype. Stick to your strategy and always be prepared. Solid advice, right? Now, here's something I wanted to share with you. Just because a certain percentage gain happened in the past doesn't mean it's guaranteed to happen again. Let's break it down. In general, percentage gains tend to shrink from one market cycle to the next. Why? Well, as more money flows into the space, market caps grow larger. So those massive percentage jumps become harder to achieve. Think of it like this. If something started off super small, say with a tiny $20 market cap, it's much easier for it to double or triple. But as it grows, those same percentage gains take way more dollars to achieve. Sure, anyone can take a $20 out of their wallet and double it. It's simple. But things get more complicated when you're talking about something with a multi-trillion-dollar market cap. At that level, it takes way more money coming in to make the same kind of impact. So the percentage gains naturally get smaller, even if massive amounts of money are flowing into the market. This is exactly what we've seen with Bitcoin over the years. Each cycle brings in way bigger dollar amounts, huge increases, but the percentage gains have been smaller. So in general, as more money pours into the space, gains from cycle to cycle tend to shrink in percentage terms. That said, there's still potential for life-changing wealth, even as the market grows. Now, let's talk about a couple of important exceptions. One big one is XRP. Because of the SEC lawsuit, XRP has been artificially held back for years. It's got a lot of catching up to do, which makes it a unique case compared to other assets. If XRP hadn't faced the challenges it did, I truly believe its price would be much higher today. While it's hard to say exactly how high, there's no denying that XRP is one of the most fundamentally strong and useful coins out there. Its utility is incredible. Seriously, it's rock solid. It works, plain and simple. XRP is fantastic for payments. It just is. And clearly, the world values that. If it weren't for the SEC, we'd likely have seen massive amounts of money flow in on a global scale. So it's no surprise to think that XRP could have skyrocketed. People have always recognized its value. They just needed the green light from those in charge. So here's something pretty interesting. Check this out. After Trump won the election, XRP ended up being the top performing coin in the entire crypto space among the top 100 coins. Number one. And that's not just a random fluke either. Honestly, XRP has always deserved that kind of recognition. But let's face it, with the way the government operated under the previous administration, it just wasn't going to happen then. That's why it makes sense to believe XRP has the potential for some seriously big gains moving forward. Oh, and let me throw this out there. If you look at the last cycle, from the bottom to the top, XRP went from 10 cents to $2. That's a 20x increase. 20 times while he was dealing with government pushback, no less. XRP is just wild like that. When it takes off, it really takes off. Here's one reason why this could happen. The market has been artificially suppressed, and now it's catching up. So we might see a much bigger percentage jump than 455% during this cycle's second pump. Will it happen? I'm not saying it will, but if it does, I won't be shocked. That's all I'm saying here. Then there's more to it than that. Even just based on that alone, seeing much larger percentage gains wouldn't be all that surprising. Now let's look at another angle, technology adoption. If you've ever seen a technology bell curve, you'll notice that when a technology starts gaining traction, adoption doesn't just increase steadily. It can actually grow exponentially faster and faster over time. Let me show you an example. I looked up technology bell curve on Google, and this is just one of many examples. Once adoption picks up speed, it can explode in growth. And that's another reason why huge gains are possible in this cycle compared to the last one. Nothing's guaranteed, of course. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. Take a look at the technology bell curve. It's pretty interesting. First, you got the innovators. They're the first to adopt, but it happens at a fairly slow pace. Then come the early adopters. Right now, we're probably just entering the early adopter phase. And by 2025, we'll likely see things really take off. That's when adoption starts to accelerate rapidly and become super exciting. After that, we hit the early majority. This is when most people start jumping on board. But once they do, the pace starts to slow down because, well, there are fewer people left to adopt. Then come the late majority and finally the laggards. These are the folks who are the exact opposite of innovators. They're the last ones to embrace the tech. By the time you get to the end of the process, almost everyone has adopted the technology. In the case of XRP, it's super clear that it's functionally useful. I won't go into all the reasons why in this video, but if you've been paying attention, it just makes sense that this trend would keep gaining momentum. Now, looking at this, especially compared to the last cycle, there's a real chance we could see a much bigger percentage increase during that second pump. Just the second pump alone. Of course, I can't say for sure if that's going to happen, but when you think about what's possible here, none of this seems far-fetched. In my humble opinion, and hey, we're all entitled to our opinions, I'm not super confident that XRP is going to hit $30 plus anytime soon. But honestly, with the crazy amount of money flowing into the market, who knows? It just might happen. That said, $100 XRP in this cycle, that feels a bit out there, like Looney Tunes level. But if we're talking without a specific timeline, could XRP eventually hit $100? Sure, it's possible. I've always said it's not crazy to imagine XRP reaching a multi-trillion-dollar market cap someday. If XRP continues to prove its usefulness and adoption keeps growing, hitting $100 at some point isn't out of the question. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. Some people think it's going to happen next cycle or maybe the one after that. And hey, that's a fun conversation to have. I'm not claiming to know for sure, but honestly, I just don't think it's happening this cycle. It seems completely unrealistic. Think about it. The amount of money that would need to flow in would be insane. What are we talking about here? Bitcoin hitting $1 million this cycle. Come on, that's just not happening. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I genuinely don't see it happening right now. Now, if we're talking about something like 10, 15, 20, maybe even $25, that feels more within reason. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, there's such a wide range of expectations from reputable chart analysts. Some are naturally more conservative, while others are a bit bolder in their predictions. Honestly, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, whatever that means, right? That's what I'm saying. If we're looking at $15 or $20, something in that range, it wouldn't surprise me at all. We just have to wait and see what happens. These are the kinds of possibilities that could be right around the corner. I can't see how any XRP holder wouldn't be incredibly bullish and excited right now. XRP is no longer being held back. The artificial suppression is gone and people are starting to realize it's a winner. As more money continues to flow into the crypto world, you can bet XRP is going to take off in a big way. Thanks for watching. If you got value from this breakdown, drop a like, subscribe for real XRP updates, and don't forget to check out Bybit using my link below. You get a deposit bonus and it helps this channel grow. Win-win.